Do curved seams feel intimidating? Perhaps you've seen a beautiful quilt pattern that uses curved piecing, but felt too nervous to try it? In this video, I'll show you 4 different ways to tackle those curves, so you can choose your favorite method and start sewing curves with confidence. Hi, I'm Rugile, the designer behind Magical Dreams. In this tutorial, I'll show you 4 different ways to make quarter circle blocks. These techniques can also be applied to other curved piecing projects. So, let's get started. There are 4 main ways to make quarter circle blocks: traditional curved piecing, raw edge fusible appliqué, turned edge fusible appliqué, and turned edge appliqué using interfacing, also called stabilizer. Let's go through each of those methods step by step. Method 1. Traditional curved piecing. Let's start with the most precise and often the most challenging method, traditional curved piecing. This method gives you the cleanest, most accurate, and most professional looking results. Start by cutting 2 curved fabric pieces using templates. The key here is that the inner curves match, not the outer edges. That's where your seam line sits. I recommend cutting your pieces about 1/8 of an inch larger. This gives you room to trim later and correct small inaccuracies. To construct the block, locate the center of each piece by folding it in half. Align the centers, right sides together, and pin. Next, pin the edges, making sure nothing is twisted or misaligned. Continue pinning in between. Remember that the stitching line is positioned 1/4 inch from the edge, not directly on it. Smooth the fabric accordingly. Instead of pins, you can also use water-soluble glue if you prefer. To join the 2 fabrics, sew slowly, smoothing the fabric as you stitch. Press the seam towards the darker fabric. If needed, clip into the seam allowance so it lays flat. Finally, trim. When trimming quarter circle blocks, always measure from the curved seam, not from the raw edge. This ensures that when the blocks are joined, the curves flow smoothly from one block to the next. In this case, I leave 1/4 inch seam allowance from the curved seam on both sides. These points become my reference, and from there I trim the block into a perfect square. Method 2. Raw edge fusible appliqué. This method is the quickest and most beginner-friendly. It's great when you want speed and accuracy without dealing with curved seams. Start by preparing appliqué shapes. For that, transfer the quarter circle shape onto the paper side of fusible web and cut it out roughly, leaving a small margin. Fuse the shape to the back of your appliqué fabric using a hot iron. Then, cut the shape precisely and remove the paper backing. Use a needle or other sharp object to make it easier. Quick tip: if you're using a lighter fabric on top of a darker background, the darker fabric can sometimes show through. To prevent that, fuse a layer of white fabric to the fusible web before creating your appliqué shapes. This provides a backing that keeps light fabric clean and opaque when applied on darker backgrounds. To build the block, position the quarter circle onto your background, aligning it to one corner, and fuse it in place. To finish, stitch the shape down using a narrow zigzag, blanket stitch, or satin stitch. If you're using a satin stitch, add embroidery stabilizer underneath to prevent fabric from puckering. Keep in mind that the edges remain exposed, so this method may not be ideal for heavily used quilts. Method 3. Turned edge fusible appliqué. This method is similar to raw edge appliqué but gives you clean finish with neatly hidden raw edges. It's a great balance between speed and polished look. Start again by preparing appliqué shape. For that, again transfer the quarter circle onto fusible web, but this time cut it out exactly on the line. Fuse it to the back of appliqué fabric, leaving extra fabric for seam allowance. Trim the fabric about 1/4 inch outside the curved edge. To hide raw edges, fold the seam allowance to the back using your fingers and press with a hot iron to create a crisp edge. Remove the paper backing and gently press again to stick the folded edge to the back of the shape. Be careful not to touch the fusible web directly with a hot tip, as it can melt and stick to the iron. And just like with the raw edge appliqué, add a white layer under the fusible web when using light fabrics on dark backgrounds to reduce show-through. To assemble the block, position the appliqué onto the background and fuse it in place. Finish by stitching close to the folded edge using a straight stitch. This will give you a clean, professional, and almost invisible finish. Method 4. Turned edge appliqué with interfacing. This method uses interfacing and is less intimidating than curved piecing. It creates smooth curves and soft finish without any glue. This method is often used to make 4 identical blocks at once. Thus, get the right size fabrics before you begin. For example, for 4-inch finished block, start with 8-inch fabric squares. Also, get ready to draw a circle that's radius is the same as the size of a quarter circle. To prepare the applique shape, draw the circle onto the interfacing. Place it on the right side of your applique fabric and stitch along the drawn line. The accuracy of this stitching is what defines the final shape of your curve, so take your time here. If you drift away from the line, the quarter circle edge may look kinky instead of smooth. Once stitched, cut out the circle with pinking shears, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Make a small cut in the interfacing and then turn the piece inside out. Gently push out the curve from the inside to smooth the edge. Using a blunt tool, like the back of your round scissor blade, helps shape the curve smoothly. Press with a hot iron to make a crisp edge. To assemble the blocks, center the circle onto the background square and pin. Then stitch it down with a straight stitch. Finally, cut the circle into 4 equal quarter circle blocks. To avoid shadowing, cut away the background fabric. And that's it, 4 different ways to make quarter circle blocks. Use traditional curved piecing if you're after perfection, precision, and don't mind a bit of a challenge. Go for raw edge applique if you want something quick and beginner friendly. Choose turned edge fusible applique if you want similar speed and accuracy, but with fully enclosed raw edges. And use interfacing if you prefer a softer, glue-free finish but feel a bit intimidated by curved piecing. Try those methods out and see which one works best for you. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more quilting tutorials. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.